Hello, hello, and welcome to my show, Inner Work for Greater Good. My name is Emily Eldridge, and I am the founder of ChangeLight, Inner Work for Greater Good, and the creator of the ChangeLight system. So if this is your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome again and again and again. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to teach you all of this information because this is about really doing inner work that accelerates your power to make a difference in whatever ways you feel called to make a difference. It doesn't have to be you. You don't have to be like world changing, whatever you do or whatever you want to do. It can be really simple, just really making a difference in the people's lives around you, directly around you. So thank you for coming. And if you haven't been following, please do for sure watch the past episodes because I've been on a tear with really explaining all these different elements of my ChangeLight system, which is all about understanding what's going on inside, the truth of what's going on inside of you, so that you can truly learn to work with these parts of you, both the parts that feel like they get in the way of you really making the difference that you want to make, as well as the parts whose job it is to empower you to make that difference and live that truth. So let me go ahead and start share my screen. Here we go. Title, Inner Work for Greater Good. And so when it comes to the ChangeLight system, I always like to go through this. I just like to really recap and sort of like get it in our heads, right? What are these aspects that are going on inside of us? So you have your X powers. Most people are pretty familiar with X powers because they're the parts of us that get in the way of us feeling fully at peace with ourselves and fully empowered to be the presence that we want to be, to really have the impact that we want to have. So those X powers are those parts that a lot of times they're known as, inner triggers or blocks or wounds or blind spots or subconscious limiting beliefs. And they really can control us on a subconscious level and cause us to feel certain ways and think certain ways and behave certain ways and react in ways that just don't feel good for us, or also don't serve our purpose, don't serve our ultimate ends. They can ultimately sabotage how we show, the things that we want to accomplish, and sabotage how we want to show up in the world. And so that's what I talk a lot about X powers. I did like a ton of episodes about X powers because they're really interesting, frankly, as much as they wreak havoc in our lives and our relationships and in our work and in our, daily interactions. They really are so interesting and so fascinating. The more you get to understand these things inside that cause us to really show up in ways that we don't want to show up, or that cause us to have fears and doubts and, all kinds of anger, all kinds of reactions that we don't want to have. So definitely, if you haven't already, see those episodes about your X powers so that you can learn, start to understand, like, oh, here's why these parts of me exist. Here's what they're trying to do. Here's how they're trying to protect me. And here's also how they're trying to serve me, or protect themselves, I should say, or serve themselves. As always, I talked about how X powers actually transform when we transform our X powers and we heal those blocks, those triggers, those wounds, those blind spots, those dark parts of us, that they transform back to our M powers. And our M powers empower us to live our truth, to shine the light that we're here to shine, to be the presence, to make the difference, to show up how we're meant to show up and really make the difference that we're meant to make. That's our Empower's job. That's your Empower's job. And so the episodes I did about your Empowers are all about the three types of Empowers. Of course, we have the three types of X powers. We also have the three types of Empowers, and the different ways that each type empowers you to be who you're here to be, to make the difference you are here to make. So empowers are really fabulous. Your guiding star is the vision you carry of you as your optimal self, with all of your empowers in alignment, fully healed, fully at peace, no fears, fully empowered, like really shining the very brightest light you can. Your guiding star is that image that you carry, that knowing you carry of like, this is who I am when I'm fully living my truth, when I'm without any fear, when I'm fully empowered in my life and really being the presence that I want to be. That's what your guiding star is all about. That's what the last episode I just did was about. So definitely watch that as well. And ultimately, and this is what this episode is about. Ultimately, this is all about this inner work for greater good, my episodes, my work, my whole agenda and intention, my personal mission is to help you truly know, honor, live, and actualize your truth. That is what this episode is about. We've reached your truth here. We've talked about all the other parts, and we've reached talking about your truth, which is the treasure inside of you. This is the ultimate light that you are here to shine. This is your purpose in life, is to live your truth, to actualize it, whatever way, whatever it is. I mean, you have your own truth. I have my own truth. We are the only ones who know our own truths. Of course, other people can help us know our truth, but it really is about knowing and living according to your own truth. And when you do that, you are your most at peace and you're most empowered. So I'm focusing on your truth for this whole episode because this is really what life, in my opinion, is all about. So next slide. You know what? I'm laughing because, as always, I forget I have these animations. And if you've seen my previous episodes, I hope you are laughing your ASS off right now because I do this every time. Oh, yeah, I made an animation. I completely forgot. So isn't that cute? Boom. Anyway, so let's talk about your truth, okay? And as I'm talking about your truth, I want you to really, really tune into tune into your awareness of your own inner truth and how that might feel for you and how, where it is inside of you. Because even if you've got all those other X powers or those other inner struggles that feel like they get in the way of you knowing your truth, you still have a truth. You still have this beautiful, extraordinary light within you whose job it is to shine through you. And it's your job to allow it to shine through you. So what is your truth? Your truth is the presence within you that knows who you are and who you are here to be. Okay, who you are now and your true essence and who you are here to be. So this future optimal self, the self that you are here to grow into, to evolve into, to expand into. So it's your inner knowing of who you are and who you're here to be. It is your true self beyond all influence and fear. So it is you without any fear, without having been negatively impacted by the world around you, which we all are. And it is your inner compass. Let me stop sharing for a minute here so we can really talk about this. So your inner truth, the reason why I feel like it's really important to make a definition is because as I was writing my first book, I haven't published it yet, but as I was writing my first book, it's still in draft form. I really, I was using this term truth, and a lot of people use this term, your inner truth, your truth. What does your truth tell you? What's your truth? What's your truth? And I really thought, well, what's the definition of this word? Because everyone's using it as though we all understand what your inner truth is. And that is why I think it's really important to stop and go, okay, well, what is this thing that we're talking about? As I defined it, your truth is your inner knowing of who you are and who you're here to be. Now, there's a reason why I break it up into those two things, your presence and your purpose, your who you're meant to grow into. Because when we talk about, when someone says, well, what is your truth telling you? So my truth in this moment, depending on the scenario, if I say, what is my truth telling me? It could be that my truth is the part of me that says, well, this, whatever this situation is, that this aspect of it, or that this decision, or that this awareness, or whatever, that this is what's most in alignment with me, what feels most right for me in this moment right now, with which feels most aligned for me as I am, as I know I am, and who I am. So that can be when someone says, what is your truth telling you? It could be an answer of, here's where I am now, and this is what's most in alignment for me right now. At the same time, though, if someone were to ask me, well, what does your truth tell you? It could be in a question in response to me trying to figure out, well, what direction should I take? Where should I go with this situation, or in my life? Or what will guide me in the direction that I want to go, to become the person that I want to be. So for example, I chose to do this special, like it's sort of like a full year coaching program, in which I'll be receiving coaching, but it's also a lot of connecting with people who do similar work to what I do. Not the same work, but we're all really focused on making a difference in the world. And so my truth was clear, like, this is it. Because and in that case, actually, it was by knowing my truth said, absolutely, this is what I'm here to do, like to be with this group of people right now. And so that was a statement of, I am here to be with these people because they are a reflection of not just who I am, but also who I want to be and where I want to go, the vision that I have for who I want to become. And so my truth was that thing that actually in that moment, answering that question to say yes to this opportunity was really a statement of, this is who I am, and this will help me become who I want to be, who I'm here to be. And so that is where your inner truth is, that part of you that knows. It knows, and it knows this beyond all influence and fear. Remember, I talked about that a lot of times we are subconsciously controlled by our own triggers, our own fears, our own ego. I mean, when I talk about X powers, that's what I talk about. These are the subconscious things that impact how we choose to, how we show up in the world, or the choices that we make. But your truth is that part of you, is that inner knowing, is that light. Sometimes you can think of it as like a pillar of light or a glowing presence. For me, I just feel like it's just this like solid knowing. It's just this knowing. And also that when I honor my truth, that is when I know that I shine the brightest. When I speak from my truth, even if it's scary, even if I think someone might react or get triggered, nevertheless, when I speak from my truth, that is when I feel that is the strongest, those are the strongest statements and the most impactful statements I find, when we speak from our truth, when we hold ourselves from that space of knowing our truth and trusting our truth. So that's how I feel it. But the point is that your truth is that inner knowing of who you are and who you're here to be, and that our job is to live in accordance with that. However, going back to that fear and influence and all that, the problem is, as always, we all grow up with all these other influences, and sometimes they're not necessarily ill-intentioned. A lot of times they're well-intentioned. On the other hand, sometimes they can be, we have traumas, we have fears, we have, people who treat us a certain way. We have certain needs that aren't met. There are all kinds of conditions in our lives that cause us to have fears, triggers, and that cause us not to trust our truth. Because a lot of times some of the wounding can happen because as children, let's say, we were doing something that was in accordance with our truth. So it could have been that you said something that was true, and that was true for you. And it was, in your mind, there was just no question. But the way other people reacted to hearing that from you, or to seeing you behave that way, then you might have gotten a negative reaction or an oppositional reaction, something that made you feel like you weren't safe to speak that truth or to shine your light in certain ways. And so as a result, you may have developed those X powers, but also that sense of it undermined your own trust and faith in your own truth. Or maybe, and this is like one of those things with gaslighting, which has become a term that's become more popular with, with narcissism and things like that. But when people gaslight us, when they basically, like, we know something to be true, and it could be completely true for us, or it could just be true in general, just like there it is. And yet when people gaslight us, when they tell us no, that what we think or how we feel or how we're, whatever we perceived in that scenario is not true, that can undermine our own trust and faith in our truth. Okay, so that's the thing, is that your truth is always inside of you. It is the most powerful presence inside of you from where I sit, and as far as I'm concerned. But the problem is that those X powers, those fears, those triggers, those all that stuff that starts to accumulate as a result of our lives, of our experiences, as a result of the beliefs that we form in response to certain experiences. The reason why that's important is because, we could have 10 people have the exact same experience and see the exact same thing happen. And that you might get 10 different beliefs, though, that form in response to that experience. Some of those can be empowering, but some of those can be disempowering, and thus impact our ability to know and to trust and to live our own truth. But the bottom line is your truth is always there inside of you. Your truth itself is never impacted by fear or pain or any of those things. Your truth is just there. It is your true self. It is you, and it is the part of you that knows who you are here to be. Even if others think that presence that you're here to be, even if others think that's crazy, your truth knows. You know that you're here to have a certain impact, or that you are capable of certain things. And others may think that's crazy, but if you know, and I mean really know from that deep place, then that means that's coming from your truth. Then you know that, and you are capable of becoming that. When I talked about your empowers, I say your empowers, their entire job is to empower you to live your truth. So all of the power you need to live your truth, to be that presence and have that impact, all of the power you need is already inside you. So it's not about trying to be someone other than who you are, or do anything other than you are feeling called to do, or trying to develop certain traits that you just don't naturally have. And now notice the difference between traits and skills. We develop skills. There may be certain skills that we need to develop in order to live our truth. But for example, if your genius zone is to, I'll just use myself as an example. My genius zone is to, I am all about connection. I am all about interconnection. I'm all about people. I am all about, really helping people discover their own truth. And I may develop certain skills, and I've developed a lot of skills in service to my truth. But my truth also, I don't feel like it's my truth to do accounting. I'm not saying I don't know how to do accounting. I can do that as a skill, but in terms of like to serve people in that way, no. Like, that's just not, you do not want me doing your books. Like, not only like maybe I can do them, but it's not going to light me up to do them. Just like it might light you up to do certain things, but it won't light you up to do other things. And that's, I want to point out there, that's often why I ask people, what lights you up? Because often what lights you up is because it's almost like it's triggering like this. It's connecting with your truth. Your truth is the ultimate thing that lights you up. So when you do what lights you up, you are living in accordance with your truth. You're allowing your truth to shine through you. And also, when you pay attention to what lights you up, it's because that is part of your truth. That's part of the presence you're here to be. You are here to shine your light, to shine your absolute brightest light. And the way you do that is by living your truth. And one of the ways that you can start to know what your truth is and know what's in alignment with your truth is whether or not it lights you up, if it makes you feel good. I'm going to give you an example of something that really just happened for me literally yesterday. So one of the things that, like, in terms of my work, I know that my work is calling me towards a bigger role of leadership. I know that my work is calling me, and I have my own business, but it's calling me to create a bigger presence in the world through my own business. I've often had a real resistance to, like, building a business. Like, that just feels like to me. Like, it just feels so laden with all this other, like, energies that I don't like, that I see in other businesses or that I see in other types of leadership. But when I sat with it, I thought, well, you know what? And this is kind of in alignment with what I said about, beyond all influence and fear, is I asked myself the question only just yesterday, after all these years of having a business and struggling with, like, feeling at peace with business in general, is I asked myself, well, okay, so if I had a business, let's just pretend that none of the pre-existing stuff exists, all the stress and all the other ways that people tend to run their businesses and all the emotional stuff that people tend to have and all the pressures and, and all the ways that people typically run their business. It's all about the money and it becomes about greed and everything. I thought, well, just pretend that none of that exists. If you, Emily, could have a business on your own, free of all influence and fear, and you've designed it according to what feels most right for you, what really lights you up, like a business that really lights you up, what would it be? How would you run it? How would you structure it? How would you work with your employees or treat your employees? What kind of people would you have? What kind of environment and culture would it be? So that was a cool exercise for me to really tap into my own truth about creating a business that's in alignment with my truth, not according to the way I think it should be, or the way other people are telling me it should be, or the way the attitudes or the emotions that they tend to carry when it comes to business, or the perceptions, the negative perceptions I tend to have. So I'm just using that as a quick example because that literally just happened yesterday, where it was like, well, if my truth were building this business, what would it look like? How would it be? And I started to get visions of it. And I started to write things down, and I started to notice how I want to feel, what would light me up, because it's what would be in alignment with my truth, to create a business that's in alignment with my truth, and thus also create a business that can be in alignment with other people's truths, and that can be all about love and trusting self and respect, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that's just all the whole, like, free of all influence and fear, is that your truth is that part of you that is not impacted by those things that we can tend to think that we are so impacted by. Your truth is stronger than all of that. And so that's why it's so incredibly important and vital to trust it. And now finally, with that last aspect of the definition of your truth is your inner compass. Right? So your truth is that part of you. It is that knowing inside of you that guides and inspires you, that guides you, I should say, because the guiding star is more about inspiring, although your truth can do this too. But it really does guide you. It's that you could even feel it almost like a magnet that's like pulling you this way or that way, where this is what feels right. And it guides you to make those decisions, to show up in certain ways that really are in alignment with your truth. So your truth is that inner compass that you carry, and it's your own compass. Other people's compasses may be guiding them in different directions or to show up in different ways. You have your own compass, and your truth knows what is right for you. It knows what is in alignment and what will help you and guide you and strengthen you to become the presence that you are here to be, to become that guiding star that I talked about in the last episode, your optimal self. And ultimately, that is what this is about. The other thing I want to say is this. When we talk about your inner truth and we're talking about inner work for greater good. When you are living in full alignment with your truth, or even trying to, frankly, let me just say, when you are truly trusting and living and actualizing your truth, you are changing the world, period. Because you are lit up, because you are responding to the world around you rather than reacting from those X power places, because you are doing what most lights you up, what most brings you joy, what feels most empowering and in alignment for you. And just by the nature of doing that and being that presence in the world, you are making a difference. And this is a big part of what I mean when I tell people that I work with who are leaders. I say, it's not just about what you do, it's about who you are. And it's not just about having an impact based on what you do, like constant doing, but on the presence that you are, on the energy that you're radiating. This is what it's all about when we talk about be the change you wish to see in the world. When you are living your truth and you are shining your brightest light. You are lighting up our world. When you heal, you are healing our world, and you are showing up in the highest, most optimal way possible, which automatically impacts the world around you. Even if you aren't doing a thing, you are shifting the energy, the vibrations, you are bringing light to our world. And not only that, I find that the most powerful doing comes from our being, comes from living and being in accordance with our truth, that your truth is what guides you to do the things that you are here to do. So it's about not doing so much busy work anymore, not wasting time, wasting energy, not being, distracted or led or confused or whatever, or held back by our own fears and our own triggers and our own reactions to things and our own trying to prove ourselves or trying to, impress other people or be accepted in by people that maybe really, they're not really our people. That oftentimes insecurities and those things will fuel that. It's about not living based on insecurities or fears or any of those things, but really based on your truth. The knowing of who you are and who you are here to be, and living in accordance with that and in alignment with that and trusting that completely. It is not always easy. It can be hard. I talked about this when it comes to my inner guiding star. Sometimes when I talk with her and I ask her, like, well, what do you think about this? Or, to be guided this way or that, ask her for guidance. And sometimes her answers, I'm like, really? And again, that really isn't like, oh no, you're going to make me do that. Or, oh, that's a terrible thing. No, it's like really like, whoa, like it's so strong and it's so clear and it's just so no nonsense. And it's just so like, boom. It's because she doesn't have any insecurities. She doesn't have any fears. She just knows what my truth is and what the choice is that I need to make that is in alignment with my truth. And so sometimes it can take some time. It can be a little bit scary. It can be a little bit intimidating and overwhelming to really trust and live that truth and declare your truth, which is part of my 4-part process of actualizing the truth. But declaring that truth can be scary. But ultimately, it is the most empowered you can feel and be is when you truly live your truth. So it can take some time to live your truth. It can be overwhelming, intimidating, and scary to live your truth, but ultimately it is the most powerful. When you do that, that's when you are your absolutely most powerful. So this is a basic, introduction, I guess, to your truth. But again, this truth is the treasure we've been after all along. So that being said, let me share the screen again. Oh, I realize there's a whole other thing. What does your truth do? Your truth guides you to become your optimal self. See, I missed this. Lights you up when you are being and doing what is most right and empowering for you. We talked about that. It never changes, never wavers, never dims. So going back to this, how do we get to your truth? We got to clear those X powers. We bring forward your M powers, which are there. And of course, your X powers, as we heal those, they transform back to M powers. honoring your gut, listening, noticing, honoring your guiding star, and ultimately living your truth. That is the most empowered and at peace you can possibly feel. And that is what this ChangeLight system is about. It's addressing all of these parts inside of you, the parts that are getting in the way of you knowing and trusting and living your truth, as well as the parts whose job it is to empower you to live your truth, whatever your truth may be. And that is your empowers and your guiding star. And then ultimately, it really is. This is what it's about. Ultimately, your inner work for greater good is about tapping into and living your truth and truly trusting it and honoring it. And by doing so, you really do affect greater good and change the world. As always, I like to tell you the ChangeLight system, this is what this is all about. What I have shared in all of these episodes, I think we're at 15 now, I've shared really in depth about the elements of the ChangeLight system, my discoveries that I've made. What I have not been sharing, because they're in my course, and it's really important that you do this within the community that I have, a very safe and supportive community, are the techniques for doing all of these things that I've been talking about. I teach you how to heal your X powers so they transform back into M powers. I teach you how to tap into your M powers and honor them so they can guide you. I teach you how to draw out and listen to your guiding star. And finally, I really teach you about your truth and how to actualize it, a 4-step process for actualizing your truth. Because it's one thing to kind of get the impression of like, oh, here's what my truth is telling me to do. But then what are the steps you can take to really, really bring that forward? So the ChangeLight system is in my ChangeLight community. It's an online community where you can take the course, but you can also connect with other people who are passionate about similar causes as you are, so that you're not only just doing your inner work, but also able to take steps and move forward for the greater good. So you're connecting with other people who are also doing their inner work for greater good. That is what ChangeLight is all about. That is what our community is all about, and the course inside. So please do join us there. Please, please, please. I would love to have you if you're passionate about doing this work. And especially if you want to learn the techniques that can help you do all this stuff that I've been talking about in these past many, 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 many episodes. All right, so let's stop the share here again. And just thank you so much. I so appreciate being able to share all of this information with you. Going forward, I'll be very honest with you, I'm not entirely sure what we're going to cover. I mean, I think I might answer some questions and talk about like how to help you identify if you're having certain reactions. What part of you is doing that? How do you deal with that? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I'll be completely transparently honest with you. So if you have any ideas, go ahead and let me know. I'm at emily@changelight.world. If you have some ideas or some questions, I would love to hear them. In the meantime, though, thank you as always for really absorbing this information, and also for starting to bringing it into your consciousness and your awareness and in your leadership, in your change making, in your sense of mission. Because this is what this is all about, is really helping you accelerate your ability to change the world, to achieve your mission, to affect greater good in the world. All right. Mwah. Thank you as always, and I will see you next week. Bye.